Hello.
Hello.
So here we are. It's Yoga Sutras time.
Good morning, Gurvinder. He is fast.
Gurvinder is quick. Hi, Gurvinder.
He is sharp this morning.
And so, all righty here. Let's put this up here. And here we are.
Om.
And we are in the section on Om. Planted sort of right there. So we all get to see that Om is what it's all about.
Direct route.
The direct route. Okay.
No lollygagging.
No lollygagging. All righty. So there we are. And I'm going to take that out now and put our thing in there. How's that?
That looks very nice.
Okie dokie. I guess I should put that up more visible.
Yeah, you can boot me out. I'm just a prop.
No, I'm going to take both of us out so it's visible.
That's a good idea, Sanjay. I'm just playing.
There's no way on this thing.
I know, it's all okay.
There's no way to take you out and leave me in and the thing. It doesn't work that way.
Oh, I see. Because it's nice if there's some little P person on the bottom, but on the right, but then you have to boot me out of the show.
That works only when there's one person.
Yeah.
And so if I take you out, then we cannot hear your voice, and I don't think you can hear what's going on.
And yes, the Dosa Guru is in the ashram, Gurvinder.
Dosa Guru is in the ashram. Is Dosa Guru? Yes, the Dosa Guru is here.
Yes, Dosa's coming this afternoon, Gurvinder.
Lunchtime. But you won't be able to
get all
get
those priorities straightened out. Now we can go
to get here in time to have some. Yeah. So you have a dosa walla right there in your house, though. So you've got a pretty good life. All righty, so here we go.
Let's plunge in.
Dive in. Yoga Sutras 1.23-1.29, contemplation on Om or Om. And there's our little picture over there just to make a mental note, helps you remember that, wait a minute, the Om thing is somewhere in the middle of chapter 1. So column 1 is
slap dap in the middle, Swamiji.
What?
It's slap dap in the middle.
Slap dab, yeah, she learned slap dab. That's an American colloquialism. Nobody knows
Hi,
what.
Lila.
That's sitting in Netherlands talking South.
Talking Southern.
I do feel a little bit more Dutchy. I'm biking all week and I'm walking in the rain. So it's coming back, Swamiji. It's coming back.
Yeah, well, don't forget
Not for long, it's coming, then I'll be back.
You're leaving soon.
No, but I was laughing because in Florida we don't go out in the rain. No, we do go out in the rain. That's not true.
Yeah.
We do walk.
Okay.
Hi, B. One of these days, maybe B will put some picture there instead of leaving that little gray thing.
Gurvinder, it's much nicer to have that picture there.
Yeah. We finally got Gurvinder to put a picture there.
Yeah. Took some convincing, though.
I thought it was smack dab in the middle. Oh, okay.
What did you say, Mom?
Slap dab.
Slap dab.
Well, it's close enough. It's close enough, but she's right, actually.
Yeah, no, and she should know she's in the middle of the South. So
yeah,
she's dead nuts on.
Yeah, she's
dead nuts on.
Yeah.
I was waiting for a moment to put that in, but I just couldn't yet do it. You beat me.
And
hi, Marlene.
Sunil. Good morning or afternoon or evening or hello, Sunil. And there's Rosalind. Hi, Rosalind.
Oh, yeah,
or namaste, we should say. She said namaste. Anyway. Okay. Can you see that okay, Ma, on your screen?
Yeah, I got a very nicely big screen, so it's big enough for me to read even while it's, in the BeLive setting. So.
And of course, as everybody knows, the way I lay this thing out is at the beginning, before we get into the sutras, I put a description sort of in the summary that says it all before we actually get into the sutras. Remembering the sound vibration.
The meditation room is also still on.
Turn it on.
Yes. Thank you. Thank you.
You're welcome.
I forgot to turn it off. And there's Urban. Hi, Urban. All righty. Remembering the sound vibration of Om along with a deep feeling for the meaning of what it represents, that's a key principle there, remembering the meaning. Otherwise, we're just being a parrot repeating a word. Brings both the realization of the individual self and the removal of obstacles that normally block that realization. In a sense, this practice is like a shortcut and that goes directly to the heart of the process. And I guess we should make a little sales pitch for those who don't know it. We have created a course called Om Mantra, the heart
of traditional yoga.
Because here it is, sitting right in the heart of the Yoga Sutras. It's in the heart of the Bhagavad Gita. It's in the Upanishads. It really, really is true. So we worked very hard to make that a good course. And
you have the outlines ready for the next 2 courses, Swamiji, that we're going to record?
No, I'm not. I don't know.
I'm just teasing now.
Okie dokie. This practice takes one on a direct route inwards, systematically piercing the levels of consciousness. It is done with sincerity and dedication, there's a sutra, towards the untainted creative source or pure consciousness, which Om represents. That consciousness contains the seed of omniscience, which is the source of the teachings of all the ancient sages. For it to have its effect, the sound of Om is remembered with deep feeling for the meaning of what it represents. And there's some article links. And there is our friendly circle chart, complete with Om on it, the Ah, the U, the and the fourth, the Turiya. Dive in, Ma, whenever you want to.
Yes.
Make it more clear. And hi, Inika.
Yeah, there she is. Good.
What do you mean there she is good?
She said that it was not yet appearing in the satsang group for her, so she was not, unfulfilled desire a little bit. So, but it showed up finally for her. It's good to know that sometimes there is a delay like that for people to join.
And sometimes the notification doesn't come, so I always click on the page group and go to the page, and there I will see the live video. So I don't wait for the notification.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing to do. I mean, I put the thing out, so an announcement goes out at least a few hours. I put out the announcement of this last night.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's a fair presumption on my part that the people interested in this know that it's coming anyway.
Yeah, so she was waiting for it to pop up in the sense. I don't know, maybe she indeed was not in the group, or maybe she was, but it's okay, she's here now.
She is here now.
She is here now.
Okay. Well, it's there. There it is. It's online.
Yeah, I'm seeing. I was looking at myself too, in the sense of I should share it.
And Matesh is there now. Hi, Matesh. I don't know what that means, Enika, but Facebook is not always straight. Does that mean that it's crooked or sideways? I guess I don't understand. I don't need to know. All righty, here's the actual sutra. From a special process of devotion, Ishvara Pranadhana, or letting go into the creative source, the coming of samadhi is imminent. How do you do this letting go into the creative source? And here I put a section in here particularly for people who have some religious background and where the word Ishvara is simply translated into English or other languages. It's usually translated simply as God.
Yeah.
So what happens here in the US, and I think other places, European places, other parts of the Western world, this Ishvara gets translated as simply meaning God. And so instantly people say, oh, well, I understand what this word Ishvara means because I heard about it in my church on Sunday mornings. And so they presume that this is the meaning that is in mind. And it's not it.
No.
And I don't know if I want to read this whole thing or just talk. Denote a state of collective consciousness. So if there's one absolute reality, commonly called Brahman or Paramatman, if there's one absolute reality, and the first thing that happens is the veil of Maya, the veil of manifesting, and then there comes out, then we end up with three natural processes called Brahma, Vishnu, Shiva, the coming, being, and going, and that's a natural part of what's built into the universe. Well, when the oneness, or the Advaita, the non-dualness, the one Brahman, when it starts to have appearance of the veiling process, and it starts to have the appearance of an out here, the first thing that happens is that there is now an impelling force that appears to exist that moves outward and manifests as the universe and people and trees and couches and computers and all of this stuff out here. And the word that goes with that natural impelling force to move outward, one of the words for that is Ishvara.
Very nicely said, Swamiji.
And I mean, it's just built into the way the one non-dual reality operates and appears to be multiplicity. Any system, any philosophy, any approach of meditation that posits as a starting place that there is only one reality must have some way to account for the appearance of multiplicity. You simply cannot ignore it. Because as soon as we are a slightly sentient being, as soon as we're a little baby, we're just an infant. You look around at the world and you see an other. The little brand new baby looks outward and sees mother.
Kittens.
The kittens, and they automatically go for the milk and all this. So there is a me and there is an other. And so there is an impelling force. It's a surge of prana. It's essentially saying the same thing, but using different words that give it a different feel to it. So we talk about adi prana, the first prana emerging outward. When we're talking about the macrocosm, the universe, one of the words for that is Ishvara.
Question. Why is Ishvara used in this context, given this definition of an impelling force, while there is also a traditional way of holding Ishvara as the ground reality, which is the potential? Why?
But that's essentially what I just said. Your words are just a different way of saying the same thing. When you say that Ishvara is the ground reality, if the oneness is going to manifest outward as this multiplicity, the first thing that has to manifest is a ground. If you're going to have a field of flowers or a field of fresh veggies growing, whatever that field is growing, before you can grow your veggies, you have to have a field. Before you can play a game of soccer or cricket or baseball or football or whatever game it is, you have to have a playing field. And that's what you just said. So the first thing out there, there's a field and it's called Ishvara. And all I was doing was saying the same thing in a slightly different way that says that there is an impelling that moves outwards so that there can be multiplicity. We all know this is the avidya that we are living in all the time. We all know the multiplicity. What we don't know is the one, and we're trying to awaken to the one. And so this word Ishvara, it's such a beautiful, subtle point. You have to be bright enough to be able to hold this. And many people at this stage of their lives and incarnations are not. And so what happens? They invent a man in the sky version of God. There's a being, and he did all of this. Because it's so hard for all of us, it's so hard to believe that I am that. It's so hard to believe that I am God, that I am divine, that I am pure consciousness. Because for many people, it evokes the thing, but you don't understand, I'm suffering. This is why the story goes, we don't know much about the history, but this is why the story goes that Buddha told people, don't sit around doing all this philosophizing. It's a waste of time. All you need to know is the Four Noble Truths. There is suffering. Everybody says, yeah, I know that. I know there's suffering. Then he says, number 2, the suffering has a cause. Number 3 says the cause has to do with desire. But it doesn't mean surface level desire. It means the subtle level, what Patanjali calls the klesha. And then number 4, you have to remove that. You have to remove it and transcend it. That's the simplicity of the process. But we all look out at the world and see multiplicity, but we don't see oneness. And so there is the idea here of Ishvara Pranadhana is that this Ishvara, it becomes the ground, as you said, Raj, but it's also the impelling force to create, for there to manifest a ground. The ground manifests so that then there can be the Brahma, the creation process of all the multiplicity out of that ground. And so this is saying this is what happens here. And what we're doing in all of sadhana is we are surrendering back into that ground. We're surrendering the surface level of me back into that ground so that I can then transcend the ground that here is called Ishvara. And that will lead me to Atman.
So this is like the level of prajna?
It's down around that level of prajna in terms of the Om. Now, he doesn't break down the parts of the Om here. That's done pretty well in Mandukya Upanishad.
Yeah, in the Karika,
What?
in the Karika, on the Garupadas Karika, indeed it says, Brahman, Ishvara, Hiranyagarbha, and Virat. So they're just these levels of how Brahman kind of, when it plays in these levels, how it is called.
Yeah.
So it's the same as what you're saying, basically. I just was remembering that text.
And so here's a perspective from Leela. To me, that Ishvara, or the feminine Ishvari, implies a first primal ruling order of the outward movement. Now, personally, I'm not fond of that way of saying it, Leela. I'm not challenging it, but I'm just saying we each get to play with these in our own way. Because when I see primal ruling order, it evokes to me a cultural myth that a primal ruling order is like a president or a king or a being. And when we do that, in some sense, to me, we've already fallen into the trap of avidya, and we have, instead of understanding how this works, we project out a being. There's a him or there's a her. The ruling meaning an intelligence that is inherent in the process. And I, even that, there's an intelligence. Well, I think that intelligence is like the electricity that's operating my computer. The electricity itself has that as its nature, but it does not, the electricity does not understand Facebook. The electricity does not understand Be Live. The electricity does not understand microphones and speakers. The electricity does not understand that. But the microphones and the speakers and the pictures on the screen of our computers, those are all there only because of electricity. But I personally am reluctant to refer to that electricity as a ruling order. And it's all okay again. And primal buddhi, see, in primal buddhi, I don't know what primal buddhi is often confused as a personal God. Yes, buddhi gets confused as God, as a personal God. This kind of thing happens. So in any case, hi Violet Teria. In any case, what we're trying to do is have some degree of understanding of the subtlety of all of this.
Yes, Swamiji. So, because in a sense, when we cannot do anything to surrender to it, but the surrendering into that ground, then the final barrier is removed by grace. I have to get my earplugs.
Well, the key here
Questions.
and this is a problem because of the way we perceive reality out here. We think that surrender means that I am surrendering to somebody.
Mm-hmm.
And so we end up having philosophical arguments, religious debates, if not bloody wars, over the nature and name of that being that is called God. And what we lose sight of is that the actual thing being talked about is the surrender.
Yeah.
The surrender. If I've let go of it, why the hell would it matter to me where it goes? If I'm still concerned about where it's going, then I have not let go of it. I'm still clinging to it.
Nicely said.
I don't know. I'm okay with that, Leela. You figure it out. At this point, I'm trying very hard to not put this as a dot on the circle chart or anything like that. Everybody can play with this in their own kind of way. But Ishvara is not just a man in the sky, in the clouds. He's not a sky god. It's not a personal God. Now, when we go through stories, when we look at the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna is a symbol of the absolute infinite non-dual reality called Brahman. That's the perspective that we're using. We run into that when we go through the Bhagavad Gita together over and over and over again. We end up with those reminders from Swami Rama that this is the meaning. Not everybody agrees with that, because a lot of people are not prepared to see it that way, because then you have to end up recognizing that I too am Brahma. And so where is the room for saying that the king of the mountains name is Krishna and he's a being? And then we can fight because because my culture, my religion says, no, the king of the mountain is named Jesus. And then the wisdom of Buddha over eons of time has largely been lost, and they have taken the man, Buddha, and put him up as the king of the mountain. So we end up with humans that keep killing each other. And, these people say that the king of the mountain is called Buddha. The king of the mountain is called Jesus, or the king of the mountain is called Krishna.
Yeah.
And instead of being seen as, excuse me, instead of being the absolute reality, Shiva is seen as a blue-skinned guy that is a man in the sky. And so then we can say, well, is it Krishna? Is it Shiva? Is it Buddha? Is it Jesus? Is it Ishvara, the God of the Old Testament, of the Western Bible? And we can accidentally lose sight of the fact that these are all names. These are storylines that are intended to communicate a deeper wisdom, but often we miss the deeper wisdom. And this is so ingrained in our cultures that it can come out of our own mouths, and we can start talking like that, and we're trying to find him on the circle chart, for example. And anyway.
Excuse me.
The great sage of the Upanishad avoid confusions related to conceptions of God and encourage the students to be honest and sincere in their quest for self-realization. There are various methods for unfolding higher levels of truth, and blah, blah, blah. And this I borrowed from Swami Rama, wrote this last phrase, that quote, in Enlightenment Without God. We've gone through Enlightenment Without God book several times together. The creative source Ishvara is a particular consciousness, Purusha, that is unaffected by colorings, kleshas, actions, karmas, or the results of those actions that happen when latent impressions stir and cause these actions. Again, I'm going to say that's like the electricity operating my computer. It has no kleshas. It has no karmas. It's completely unaffected by colorings. The electricity is not affected by what we're doing with our applications. The electricity is just pure electricity. Thought you were leaving.
I need to get my glasses.
I see.
Probably should do that.
The pure consciousness itself is represented by Om, is not colored the way that the samskaras are commonly colored. And this is klishta. And this klishta business is discussed in several other sutras. It is also not subject to the playing out of karmas, nor do actions cause the creation of new samskaras. Electricity cannot get samskaras. You can get a virus or what is the other thing that invades a computer? Malware and what? Adware, viruses can get in your computer. But the electricity that's in your computer cannot itself get a virus. Think about how ridiculous that sounds.
Sounds very ridiculous.
That the electricity gets a virus. The electricity is just pure electricity. This is the point being made here, that this infinite field of consciousness that has an innate tendency to move outward and manifest itself has no viruses, it has no malware, it has no samskaras.
Beautiful, Swamiji.
This is just how it works. So this wisdom that is outlined in this handful of sutras here is absolutely tremendous. That's why it takes us a long time. Remember the sutra we've already been through. How do you do sadhana? Long time, good attitude, no break.
No vacation.
No vacation. That's why it takes time, because there's a subtlety to this that we just keep revisiting. We keep following the Om to the silence. You know, we say that over and over. Follow the Om to silence, right?
Yeah, in that sentence, you have the surrendering without calling surrender, and you have Ishvara or whatever the ground without naming it. Just go there.
There it is, as you know. There's the ah, the oh, the and there's where. So we're surrendering this back to from where it came from. So if we put question mark there, because we're trying to avoid falling into the traps of saying, oh, well, the name of this is Buddha, or the name of this is Christ, or the name of this is Krishna. But let's just not give it a name. And then the important part is to allow everything of who I think I am and everything I think of what this world is to recede back inward. And that's the pranadhana.
And we do that with feeling and remembrance of the meaning.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. In that pure consciousness, Ishvara, the seed of omniscience has reached its highest development and cannot be exceeded. In that pure electricity, there's nothing higher. It's a metaphor. It's the seed. See, it's the bijam. It's just a metaphor. Remember, we have to use language because we're speaking to one another from out here in the world of Maya. We're speaking to one another from the world of avidya, where each one of us has forgotten that we are Atman. And so we have to converse out here. And we converse in this lovely invention called language. So we do the best we can. So here,
is it in a way speaking about Bindu as that has the the omniscient in it, and out of that everything emerges?
yeah, but the principle here is that a plant grows out of a seed.
Yes.
There's some tomatoes Rojo just brought in. And so you take the seeds out of the tomato and you put them in the ground and it grows a tomato bush or plant or whatever you call it. It's the simple metaphoric principle of the seed. Now, it does not mean that this ocean of consciousness is just is in fact a molecularly small structured thing that you can measure that is, oh, it's so many millimeters wide. That's not it. It's a terminology that's attempting to make a point that this consciousness, this Ishvara, is that ground that Raj was saying earlier, that it's the ground, it's the seed out of which everything emerges.
Yes.
And there's nothing higher, there's nothing deeper, there's nothing more pure than electricity itself in the metaphor. And see, when we say it's all-knowing, we have to remember that you and I, as human being walking around people in a body who think that I'm this personality and this body and this brain and this central nervous system, we have fallen into that trap. So we think of the word knowing in that kind of way because that's what we as a person in ignorance experience knowing as. And that's not what's being meant here. It means it is that electricity ground by which every one of my applications and programs can operate. So it's in that spirit that it's all knowing. Every app on your cell phone operates because of electricity. It does not mean that literally the electricity has knowledge in the way you and I think of knowledge. It has knowledge of all of those applications on your phone. The electricity does not have that knowledge, but it's the seed. It's the unsurpassed seed which allows knowing. So in that sense, we can say, well, it's the one that's all knowing. It doesn't mean that the electricity understands all the details of the programming, the software that was written to create all those applications. So all we can do is hang out with this stuff, do the practices, get a foothold in the meaning of Om, practice it, and enjoy the magic of the understanding, magic said playfully, growing and growing. What?
Fairy dust.
Fairy dust. Well, I hope so, Mitesh. This is what we're trying to do, is look for the simplicity. We humans, many of us have incredible minds, incredible brains. We're intelligent. We can think very, very well. Many of the people that we hang out with have advanced degrees. They're MDs, they're PhDs in this or that field. Very intelligent people out here. But that kind of intelligence that we use out here in the world will not get us where we're going. If we use it wisely, we can unravel this stuff and get subtler and subtler and subtler. And that's where the magic really is. That level of knowing is sought in the practice of Om. This level of knowing is what we're trying to know. From that consciousness, Ishvara, the ancient most teachers were taught, since it is not limited by the constraint of time. Now, this does not mean that this goes back to almost the man in the sky sort of thing. It does not mean that that seed is a cosmic human and that he chose these ancient sages, the ancient most teachers, and they went into a classroom together and he taught them the lessons and gave them a doctorate degree and said, okay, now go teach people. That's not the spirit of that. Every one of the applications on your cell phone or in your computer remember, the symbolism is all we can do with language. Language is clumsy. They were all taught by the electricity. They cannot do anything without the core principle of electricity. So the attempt here is to communicate something to us, and we have to talk about it. We have to do this for a long time with a good attitude and no break, and gradually over time this stuff makes more and more sense to us.
Like Simon Ahmed says that the best teachings are conveyed in silence.
Yes, and that conveyance of teachings in silence is when we're having a conversation like this, or we're not together having a conversation and you're sitting there reading, or you're just pondering, you're just contemplating. And all of a sudden, this insight strikes you and you say, wow, you know what? This is really making sense. Suddenly I have this understanding of this notion of bija and how this electricity called consciousness is a seed. And in that moment, this is that understanding coming forward. This is that consciousness being the teacher. Comes forward in a stream of knowing that we commonly call guru. And you sit there and we've all had this experience many times, and all of a sudden you're looking at one of these principles here and you say, wow, this suddenly makes sense. And that's the place from which the ancient most teachers learned. And if we use the words were taught, it almost sounds like there's a being there who's doing the teaching. If we ever so slightly look at it differently, the ancient most teachers, what you and I know as the teachers, the Buddhas and the Krishnas and the if we change that, instead of saying they were taught by some other being, if we say it is from that consciousness that these ancient most teachers learned. Note the different feeling. Then they learned from the stream of knowledge. If we say they were taught, it almost implies a teacher.
Consider knowledge field.
Yeah. Anyway, so there we go. The ancient word designating this creative source is the sound Om. So now I'm saying this a little bit admittedly sarcastically, And somebody else may say, the sacred word designating this creative source of intelligence is, I don't know, Yahweh is in the Old Testament of the Western Bible. The name is Yahweh. Somebody else says, no, the name of that source is Krishna. Somebody else says, no, the name of that source is Christ. And here, Patanjali is saying, no, the name of that is evoked. The meaning is evoked by the word or the mantra or the name Om. And in terms of us making sounds with our vocal cords and apparatus like that, it's the finest sound we can make. It's the most primal. It's the original. So it's a beautiful sound. And as some of you know, at points along the way, this is a sound that is actually heard internally. Om has a vibrational quality, blah, blah, blah. Now, Om mantra, the name, this word pranava, you know, the word Om Namah Shivaya, the name of that mantra is Panchakshara, which means the 5-syllable mantra. Panch is 5. So it has a name. Gayatri mantra is the name of the mantra Om Bhurgava Swata Savatara Vranyam Bhagodava Siddhima Hidyo Napachodaya. That mantra has a name. It's called Gayatri. In the Western Bible, there's a prayer suggested in the Gospels, in the New Testament of that Western Bible. And it says in there, supposedly is quoting the teacher Jesus as saying, look, everybody, there's only one prayer you need to know. Our Father who art in heaven, hallowed be the name, thy kingdom come, blah, 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 and on it goes. And in common language, that prayer has a name. The name of that prayer is, ask any Christian who practices this stuff. Many of them don't know it. The name of that is called the Lord's Prayer. If you Google Lord's Prayer, you will find that that's the words that go with it. And it's literally written in the Bible. It literally says it right there. And it's in the red letters where they're quoting their teacher. They're quoting the teacher Jesus, where he said, the only prayer you need to know is this. So that prayer has a name, and the name of that is Lord's Prayer. The name of the guy of the Om Bhurgava Swa mantra is Gayatri. The name of Om is Pranava. Is that making sense? There's a human sitting over there whose name is Roho. There's another one sitting over there whose name is Raj. The name of that being is Raj. It's actually Brahman. It has no name. But what I'm really looking at is Brahman. But this particular manifestation of Brahman, we give it a name and we call him Raj. And so there's a name to go with it. Huh?
For convenience sake.
For convenience, yeah. Yes, thank you, Ma. It's a good way of saying it. For convenience sake.
Otherwise, everyone's called Swami.
Otherwise, everyone's called Swami or something like this. And this is what happens. Names, a Swami theoretically has renounced all personal names. And the only reason for a name is convenience of other people. And usually that name that grace of guru tradition gives a person has some degree of relation to that cluster of karmas, of samskaras, and that helps that being awaken. That somehow that name seems to have a match to it. And this seems to be the case over and over and over.
Vibrational.
But anyway, the Om has a name, and that the name of that is Pranava. And the word Pranava, Sanskrit word Pranava, literally translates as humming. So I'm just going to sit around and go all day long. Well,
what about Omkara, Swamiji? Isn't that a name as well?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, but let us not get lost in debates over the name of Om.
No, I was just remembering.
Anyway, so there's the Om and the symbol of the meaning. There's the Ah, the U, the there's the Maya. And there's the seed of omniscience, the electricity, the Turiya. This sound is remembered with deep feeling for the meaning of what it represents. So our understanding as an individual person walking around in avidya, in ignorance, gradually this person called me or I gradually learns the meaning of the Om. So that's why we created a course on Om Mantra, to help facilitate that process. It's why there's books. It's why we go through together Swami Rama's book, Om, the Eternal Witness. It's why we together go through his explanation of Mandukya Upanishad in the book Enlightenment Without God. It's why we're doing this today, going through this, because each time that we reflect on this, we gain one little piece of little bit richer, deeper understanding of the meaning, the artha, the meaning of it. And so if all we understand is the simplicity of that, after remembering Om, that there is a little bit of a moment of silence. And in that moment of silence, I'm relatively free just for a few seconds of all of my worries of the day and the assholes that I work with and politics and all of the craziness of the world and childhood issues and all of this stuff. Even if it's only for 1 second after the Om, you get that, it's a little glimpse of this, and then that's one aspect of the meaning. And then that meaning gets richer and richer and richer and richer. How does that happen? Well, we get together, we have conversations. Matri and I sit here in our yoga studio and make a course and put it online so that thousands of people can look at it and hopefully learn. We come together, we do satsangs, and we keep talking about it over and over and over. So hopefully this meaning expands. And the japa is the repeated remembrance of that. And we do it with bhava, with feeling, with deep, deep feeling. And when you do this, and then a year later you look back and you say, wow, I understand this Om business so much better than I did a year ago. Wait 9 more years and you say, wow, it's now been a decade that I've been hanging out with this stuff, and it's making more and more and more sense. And not just intellectual sense, but that's the spirit. This is, I'm just trying to say here, this is the spirit of what this mantra is about. Inika said, it's good to see that the electricity not knows all the apps. Yes. Good. Got it, huh? The great sages plugged in. Yeah, they just tapped in. They plugged into the electricity, and it all came from the electricity. Something like that, huh? All righty. And there's another picture of Om. It took me, I had this concept now many years ago that somehow there ought to be a way to make one graphic, one picture that summarized this whole thing. And it took me probably a year of thinking about this. You know, it did not just come in one. I kept writing pieces of paper and pen and noting and experimenting. And finally, this was the outcome. And so here's the whole thing. And if you notice here, some of these articles, I don't have them all right here. It's in the course. It's explained better in the course, thanks to Matri making some really neat graphics in there. She took what I had done and used what I had written as the storyboard and then made it very, very pretty in the video animations. So waking, dreaming, and deep sleep go together. Conscious, unconscious, subconscious, these go together. Vaishvanara, Tejas, and Prajna and Turiya go together. The English words gross, subtle, causal levels, those go together. The A, the U, and the M, the Om of the Om go together. And so these planes of reality, they all move outward. And if you wanted to put it somewhere, you could say this down here, this consciousness is the seed, and the impelling force, I don't know where you put it wherever you want, is this Ishvara is the impelling force to come outward and make a ground reality. And then comes a subtle psychic astral plane, and then comes the gross world where you and I live. So it's constantly moving outward, and it moves inward. You and I, a few hours ago, for those in our time zone, we were in deep sleep. And then we started having dreams go on, and that caused us to wake up. And now, hopefully, we're in the waking state of consciousness. And we're not too sure about Rojo right now, but but we're in the waking state of consciousness. And then we can either recede inward and lose consciousness and be tamasic and fall into deep sleep, or we can go into yoga nidra, or we can go into self-realization. Anyway, that's just a picture trying to do that. From the remembering comes the realization of the individual self and the removal of obstacles. So by doing this provides the realization and the removal of obstacles. The removal, there's the removal, and there's the obstacles. Then, and there comes the understanding of the individual. There's the principle. 2 direct benefits come from the proper practice of Om Mantra. Proper means that we keep evolving in doing it and remembering the meaning and all of that, not just sitting around chanting Om, 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 Om like a parrot. But when we do that, obstacles are removed. And this is in one of the forthcoming sections, is about removal of obstacles. Remember, Sutra 30 and 31 talks about obstacles naturally occurring. 32 is about one-pointedness, and that's what you do to deal with them. And it's a direct route to self-realization. Okay. And there we have our friendly circle chart again. Okay, so the next section that we're coming to is about those obstacles and removal. Okay, say something wise, Mom, or somebody type something in there.
The only thing left is to say Om.
Om.
Or be silent.
Yes, I see. Rosalind gets it. Is she how fantastic my diagram is there? Huh? That is a fantastic diagram, isn't it?
It is.
It actually really is. Once it came together like that, I looked at it myself, and just me as a person, I looked at it and I said, wow, this is actually quite incredible. This is beautifully, beautifully animated.
The picture says it all.
Huh?
The picture says it all.
Well, this is what was going through my mind at the time. I said, as I started to, as my own understanding of this was evolving and evolving, evolving from doing this that we've just been reading, it kept getting simpler, becoming more clear. And out of the spirit of love and compassion, I thought to myself, there's got to be some way to summarize this in a way that's easier to see. Now, there is an easy way. We're all familiar with this symbol, but rarely does anybody ever know this. Rare is the person who knows this. I started making this and putting it out on internet. When I built this website, I was actually pretty early in the development of websites. And a lot of people, it was hit many years ago, over 10 years ago. This website was being looked at over 100,000 times a month. And it's maintained that level now. So it's been looked at many millions of times. And I've watched people, some are literally just plagiarism. And I don't complain to people when they plagiarize, but I've noticed that people have copycatted what I've done. And so I keep now seeing different versions of this, where I made this thing and put little arrows in there describing it like this. And I'm not complaining. I'm saying that's cool because this is a good picture. But this is a good picture too. And so it was quite an experience to go through the intuition coming forward
Then the
that
colors,
allows
how
this.
they work together.
Yeah, and so and that of course was intentional too.
Of course.
When I made this, I did not have a perfect color palette, and I don't have the artist's eye that you do. So when you've done this, your colors are better than my colors because you have a better artistic eye for it than I do. And you're working with an infinite color palette. So you have creative skill that I don't have, and you have an infinite color palette. So Maitreyi's version of this, if you look at the Om course, and where she's put color animations in her or visuals like this, it's really lovely. But anyway, so you're right, Rosalind. Fantastic diagram. So Mita, what I understand from Guruji's explanation. I don't know who you mean by Guruji. I guess you mean Patanjali. It's just a name. It's just a name. It's just a name. Om. It's not along with humming. Listen to the Om. What's the difference between Om and that's humming. What is Om? Om. Besides, this is the way Patanjali chose to explain it to us. Maybe Patanjali's wrong and he didn't know what he was saying, and maybe it should have a better name.
Or just maybe he's right.
Oh, okay. Yeah, all right. Okay, today I'm officially Guruji. Ma, remember that. Debbie says, I like how the colors show deepening as it moves down the chart. Yes, Debbie, that was what it was supposed to do. And I think there was a subliminal part of me that looks at our world around us and sees all the greenery, the plants and trees and all that. I don't know this. And that there is an inner experience that many people, many of us have experienced this inward of coloring moving into the realms of purple and violet and words like that. So it just naturally just kind of unfolded in this kind of way. And so, but who knows where it actually came from the person called me. From my experience, it was just, I don't know, intuition coming forward. Maybe I was being guided by Patanjali. I don't know. And I think that it seems to me that ultimately it doesn't matter. But it's, anyway, the colors are nice. Oops, Maitreyi went away. I'll bring her back.
I had a temporary break in internet.
Yeah, I see. Okay, I'm going to take that out, and just you and I can sit here for just a moment. It's on the hour, so I think perfect timing. And so we'll take a break. If the rain, it's been raining here this morning. If the rain has stopped, we can take a walk. If not, we can, I don't know.
Or be like a Dutchie and walk in the rain.
Yeah, a walk in the rain with an umbrella. And then we will come back in 1 hour, and we're going to go through witnessing.
Nice.
Maitreyi will be here with us, and she's been doing a lot of stuff with the Dutchies lately about witnessing and all of that stuff. So you'll have to add some stuff to that.
I'll do my
To
best.
be continued. Give us an hour. We'll see you all in an hour if you're free.
Can we start calling you Guruji now, Swamiji?
What?
Can we start calling you Guruji?
You're being silly. Remember, Guru is not a person.
I know. It's being silly.
Guru is a stream of knowledge. It is a stream of consciousness.
And I also do not want to not speak nice
That
about
same consciousness, that has an impelling force to move outward, also has a magnetic pull, it's centrifugal force to pull back in. This is Guru.
Yes.
And sometimes it seems to operate through a person. And then we end up calling the person Guru. And this is the same thing we do with Ishvara. We experience Ishvara in a particular culture and a context, and we give it a name. And we say, the person on the top of the mountain, I know I'm being repetitive, the person on the top of the mountain is named Buddha, or is named Krishna, or is named Jesus, and on, and then we can fight over it. And so we'll fall into the same trap. If ever you think of a person as Guru or Guruji, which I do understand, it's not a complaint.
Yes, that's what
is whenever we use that terminology in relation to a person, please, I beg of you, always remember, it's never, ever, ever about that person. If you're using your favorite app on your cell phone, you're using your favorite app on your cell phone, always remember that the app is getting all of its intensity and juice and all of its life from the electricity. What it's about is the electricity. Here's the electricity that operates my computer. I just pulled it out of the side, so now I'm on the battery. But it's about the electricity. It's not about the brand name of my computer or which app it is. So the same thing applies to a word Guruji or teacher. It's just an invitation to think like that. Anyway, so see you later if you're free. Have a wonderful, wonderful meditation. And remember, it's all to be found in the silence after the Om. What we're looking for is to be found there. So I can surrender to that, but what I'm really doing, if I let go of it, if I let go of my body identity and I let go of my breath identity and I let go of all the levels of my mental identity, then who cares what you call it? Then it's experienced with no language. And she went out again. I'm going to bring her back.
Now I pushed on the wrong button.
Now you pushed on the wrong button. Okay, so bye-bye. I'll see you a little bit if you're free. Thanks for playing, Mom.
Thank you for having me.
Okay.
Have a nice walk.
Thank you. Bye-bye. Dewey.
Dewey.